your starting point ought to be anything in which you feel more challenged than on a day-to-day basis. Just more challenged. Whatever troubles that you might have, either at home or at work, whatever it is, they trouble you a lot. And the psychological stress can eat you inside out. The thing about psychological stress is your brain cannot recognize whether stress is psychological or physiological. So when you experience psychological stress, you're certainly going to experience physiological symptoms.
Welcome to Doctor's View with me, Dr. Polyvios. Join me as I discuss everyday topics in health and medicine and provide insights into everyday hospital life. Sit back and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, welcome to the Doctor's View podcast. This is me, Dr. Polyvios, and I'm joined by Viktor from Tough Muscles, who is a personal trainer and calisthenics expert, I would say. And we are doing a slightly different podcast today. We're actually outdoors in Viktor's garden and enjoying the nice weather. And we're going to chat about calisthenics. We're going to chat about why calisthenics is important and just training in general is important, and also the effect that it can have not only on our physical health but actually on our mental health as well. And so, Viktor, just if you'd like to just introduce yourself to everyone and let us know what it is that you're part of and how it is you're helping people.
First of all, Paul, thank you so much for having me. As for me, long story short, I became a personal trainer 10 years ago. As for my training history, it started with calisthenics 16 years ago, and I just simply haven't stopped. Calisthenics means bodyweight strength training, and strength training itself, this consists of exercises that you can perform for no more than 5 repetitions in one set, or you can hold a static exercise for no more than 20 seconds. And the majority of these exercises you get to see being performed outside, such as on parallel bars, on pull-up bars, on the ground. Mm-hmm. Anything to do with pushing and lower body exercises, not everything, the majority of exercises for pushing and for lower body, you do not need any equipment to do them, you just need a firm ground. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to pull-ups and any kind of pulling, over there you need the bare minimum of something to hold on to, such as a pull-up bar.
So we see quite a few of these reels online, and not just from yourself, but people doing these sort of impossible things with bars and doing these one-handed push-ups and all sorts of things. This is all part of the calisthenics umbrella, is it not?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And why would someone choose to do calisthenics over, say, more traditional training? And by traditional training, I mean, say, gym, doing machines, weight machines, rowing machines, all of these things. What makes calisthenics stand out from your typical training regime?
I see what you mean. So, firstly, the most important reason why everyone should do calisthenics is because you only get to experience life through your own body. And with calisthenics, you maneuver your body through space. All of your body, your whole body is exposed to tension. Your whole body has to move. So the beneficial carryover of strength and functionality that you get from calisthenics is far greater than an exercise in which, let's say, you are seated on a bench or lying on a bench and you just move parts of your body whilst lifting weights. I'm not saying that lifting weights is not beneficial. However, moving your whole body, even including moving your whole body with weights such as weighted squats or weighted deadlifts, this is far more beneficial than doing something where you are seated or on a fixed position, such as on a machine with a fixed range of motion.
Okay. And I guess one other benefit is you don't need a machine to start, I'm assuming.
Certainly not. The very basics of calisthenics are push-ups and squats. The reason why these are the very basics is because you can get to do them anywhere, and from then on you can progress strength-wise by performing harder variations. Let's say when it comes to squats, you can either choose to perform squat jumps, or you can increase the width of your stance of your legs, and you can squat more towards one leg and then more towards the other leg. The goal behind bodyweight strength training is increasing strength. So over time, as you grow stronger, you need to make the exercises more challenging. So if you can do more than 5 repetitions of a particular exercise, it is more often than not, it is already the time for you to make this exercise ever so slightly more challenging. So that once again, performing less than 5 repetitions feels difficult, but not impossible to do.
So essentially, with calisthenics, you can and should adapt the exercise as you progress, and you can adapt it without the need of new machines or new equipment. You can literally adapt it just from changing your stance or changing your position or changing the way you do the exercise or evolving that exercise into a new program, shall we say.
Certainly you can vary intensity by changing repetition tempo and speed and change the numbers, but the easiest way to determine difficulty level when it comes to calisthenics exercises is changing the length of the lever that you're working with. For example, in push-ups, you can either perform push-ups with your feet on the floor and your hands on the floor, or you can shorten the lever by placing your knees on the floor. This way, because the lever is shorter, the distance between one base of support and the other is now shorter, the exercise is easier. A progression to that, these are knee push-ups. Let's say after you can do 5 sets of 5 repetitions of knee push-ups, and you already find them relatively easy to perform all 5 of 5, then another progression is you start performing the negative portion of push-ups from your feet on the way down. And at the bottom, you place your knees on the floor and then you push up.
I see. So people who normally listen to my show, they often hear me talking about medical topics. It is a doctor's view, and people might be wondering why we're doing this. And there's a bit behind it. So we've known each other for a little bit of time. Regarding you've helped me train in the past, and it's been very beneficial to me, and I used it mainly when I was revising for exams, and I found it was such a lovely outlet, just after being stuck in a room for most of the day studying, and it's getting very angry with yourself when you can't remember something, and something which I think everyone who's tried to sit an exam, or actually it doesn't have to necessarily be an exam, just anyone's having to recall stuff that they have to recall at certain points and know they're going to be tested on it in a way, can get frustrated. And what I found was it definitely made me calmer doing, albeit the chin-ups exercises that you sent to me and showed me how to do, and doing the push-ups, even if it was just 10 and then going back to revising. I definitely found it helped me concentrate, and so one of the reasons why I wanted to chat to you was to get your view on whether this is just a one-off thing that you think it just happened to help me, or whether it's something that you think has helped you and helps others as well, and what your thoughts are on that.
Doing bodyweight strength training certainly helps you focus a lot better, as whatever your worries are, up until the moment of starting to do exercise that is relatively stimulating but not impossible to perform. Just like I said, a set of an exercise that you can perform no more than 5 repetitions because it's that challenging, it puts your mind onto the task at hand of performing the difficult exercise, be it pull-ups, push-ups, dips, squats. Whatever you find challenging but doable, whatever you find difficult but you are under control. So firstly, it is the change of scenery for sure. If you constantly keep doing the same thing over and over again, you become a ticking time bomb. It is guaranteed that you're going to blow up sooner or later. Nobody can keep doing the same activity without any kind of change. You need to experience change. Different people have different tolerance to repetitiveness. However, at some point, you definitely need to change your environment. And with this, calisthenics is quite helpful because bodyweight strength training equipment, more often than not, is placed outdoors in public parks. There are very few indoor calisthenics gyms. But that being said, the majority of commercial gyms also have pull-up bars. Some of them have parallel bars. But what all of them share is a solid floor. So you certainly have a good tool for calisthenics in every single gym. But the second benefit, when it comes to doing bodyweight strength training, you feel empowered even just after your first set. No, hold it. Even during the first set, you feel that you're very much capable of doing what you're currently doing. And because, as I said, these exercises should be challenging, but you should be fully in control of that. And if you feel that you're very much in control of whatever it gets to repetition number 3, 4, 5, it gets quite difficult, but you see how you can control your body from the tips of your toes all the way to the top of your head. It really gives you a sense of achievement. After the set, during your rest periods, usually anywhere between 3 to 5 repetitions for any strength sets, you allow yourself some time for feedback, so to speak. You can easily allow your mind to drift away, not during the set, but after a set. You can very much reflect on the activities that you have done before the set or early on during the day. The way that you thought about them before starting the exercise can be quite different to the way you think about them after exercising. You will have a more positive outlook after a successfully completed set, purely because of how you feel of the exercise that you have done.
And how do you think that then reflects into your normal day-to-day lives? Like in terms of your normal day-to-day activities, you're struggling with something. How do you think that then translates to helping you in your normal activities, would you say?
Using simple logic. If you enjoy performing bodyweight strength training, you would certainly want to do more of it. And what's not to love of something that makes you feel so empowered and so much in control of your own body? It is absolutely amazing. So because you would want to do even more of it, you will make the conditions to allow you to do more such exercise in the long run. Whatever it is that you're doing for a living, you would want to do it ever so slightly better. Whatever it is that you're doing in your personal relationships, you would like to make sure that you cater for them to the best of your ability so that you can still get to experience that incredible sensation of being there for yourself, by yourself in most occasions, and experiencing the ultimate form of empowerment. Being able to move your body through space whilst experiencing a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm. So you think by getting to the point where you are enjoying the calisthenics process, enjoying the feeling it gives you, it encourages you to essentially do other things outside of calisthenics better.
Certainly.
Just purely on the basis that it's just a psychological drive that makes, because if you've done something really difficult, like calisthenics is really hard. I mean, the first time I tried to do a pull-up was just an impossible challenge for me. As you can see, I'm not the biggest human being in the world, and just being able to do that makes you feel so happy in a way. I remember the first time I could do it. It was a natural release of dopamine, and it was for me, it made me feel like, okay, I've done this. This was really hard. I've done that. What else can I do? It was and it did actually encourage me. And I felt that way, especially with revision. Like if I would start my day doing a calisthenics exercise program. And bear in mind, I see the reels that you do with your pull up and your very, very complicated calisthenics exercise, things that obviously I would not be able to do at this moment in time, of course. And but for me, the things that I was doing was probably on par in terms of the difficult, as difficult as those exercises are for you. My simple exercises were that difficulty for me, at my level. So, albeit it looks less dramatic and on a screen when you record it, but in terms of the sensation of difficulty, that's where I was, and it helped. It really did.
Perceived levels of exertion, that's what matters most. Rather than directly comparing your performance to someone else's performance, a better way for comparison is perceived levels of exertion. And the other way to compare yourself to someone else is monitor if you're both performing or if all parties are performing exercises that are strength related. No more than 5 repetitions being performed in a set, and being able to hold for no more than 20 seconds. The reason why I talk about strength training specifically is because it is the most stimulating form of training. You get the most stimulated for the shortest period of time. Let's talk about delivering the greatest results for the least amount of investment. And the investment that we're talking about right now is time. Mm-hmm. How can we change someone's mood, someone's life perspective in the shortest period of time, like with the snap of a finger, with the snap of fingers? How is it actually called? Please do excuse my English.
No, it's absolutely. That sounds about right. With a click, with one click of your fingers, we can change someone's life very quickly. So yeah, please carry on. I understand completely what you mean.
Yeah, so it is about performing something from the get-go. You experience the challenge. But the challenge is not so great that you feel that you're just about to lose control. Hence, supervision is advised when you start strength training. Or, if you cannot get supervision for whatever reason, what you need to do is you need to start with something that for sure you would find easy. And little by little, you increase the intensity gradually, slowly but surely, because that is the safest way for you to get yourself to strength training level.
Okay. So strength training level, what do you mean exactly? It's like, I get what you're saying, what strength training is, but in order to achieve that strength training level, so what point is a push-up, for example, strength training level in your eyes?
Any exercise can be used for strength training.
Okay.
Now, if a person can do one push-up, this is very much strength training, but this is also very intense. They should not perform just one push-up because this is their maximum effort.
Okay.
A recommendation would be for them to perform an easier variation, either a push-up negative and then placing their knees on the ground as they push up, or even better, starting their push-ups with the knees on the floor and performing the push-ups both on the way down and on the way up with the knees on the floor. As I said, it's about the perceived levels of exertion. Perceived levels of exertion should be that you get to be quite challenged from the get-go, from the first repetition, but because you're inexperienced, you better go for exercises that allow you to go for more than just one repetition. But go for no more than 5. And that being said, this ought to be just your first exercise. Your first exercise is when you're going to have the most amount of strength.
There'll be people listening, and to be honest, I was definitely one of them. I remember the first few exercises you gave to me were, I think, simply just hanging from a bar, for example, for 30 seconds, and then literally just rotating your wrists just to get some wrist strength, and that would almost be it for the first week or so. And I remember thinking, where's this going? It's how do you stop yourself from being discouraged that, okay, all I'm doing is half a push-up negative or half a push-up or whatever? it almost feels like this endless task that you're just never going to be able to achieve when things are going so slowly. But what's your take on that?
As I said, when you have supervision, your supervisor, whether it's your coach or your personal trainer, they will guide you along the way. They're going to first test your strength levels, and based on that, they're going to give you exercises specific to your needs in order to progress the fastest. And the reason why I asked you to hang from a bar and then to flex your wrists is so that I can strengthen your forearm flexors, which are the muscles that are attached to the base of your forearm and all the way down to the elbow, and they're responsible for allowing you to grip firmly on the bar. Because to perform pull-ups, you need to have a firm grip. So when holding onto a bar, if you squeeze it tightly, and from then on, you flex your wrists, almost overlapping the bar. This is going to provide you with the strongest grip, and this way you'll be able to pull up, not just for more repetitions, but you'll be able to pull up higher. When it comes to bodyweight strength training, rather than only thinking about increasing repetitions, you also need to think about how you can progress the movement pattern itself. This is where calisthenics wildly differs to weightlifting. As with weightlifting, the form of progression is lifting more weights. But with calisthenics, it's also about changing the movement pattern itself so that you can now oppose a much bigger surface area to gravity. So in a pull-up, for example, the surface area opposing gravity is the distance between your feet and your head. And the more upright you are, the smaller that distance is. However, if you start leaning as far back as you can, if you're strong enough, you'll be able to lean as far back with your head, and you'll be able to bring your legs high enough that your feet are leveled with your head and shoulders. This exercise is called front lever. And now, the surface area opposing gravity is your whole height, which is much more difficult. So this is the level of progression. But rather than talking about, and this will take years to improve to, however, it's more important to understand that calisthenics is just widely available. And your starting point ought to be anything in which you feel more challenged than on a day-to-day basis. Just more challenged. Whatever troubles that you might have, either at home or at work, whatever it is, they trouble you a lot. And the psychological stress can eat you inside out. The thing about psychological stress is your brain cannot recognize whether stress is psychological or physiological. So when you experience psychological stress, you're certainly going to experience physiological symptoms.
Can you expand on that for me?
Yes, certainly. When you feel stressed out, for whatever reason, you're going to feel tension and or pain somewhere in your body. You really would. A very simple example to that would be when you're very stressed out, you could feel a tummy ache, or you could feel extreme pressure around your head, like someone is squeezing your head. The tummy ache is mainly to do with your abdominal muscles tightening up a lot, and this causes huge discomfort. And when it comes to the tightening of the head, this in most occasions is an increase in blood pressure, because this is the most common symptom. You feel like someone is squeezing your head tight.
I guess this is why back pain is actually a symptom of depression, can be a symptom of depression as well.
Absolutely. There are all kinds of pains and aches that can be present when you experience stress. What bodyweight strength training does, just like any other kind of training, when you physically exert yourself, you also condition yourself to increasing your pain threshold levels. So how much pain and discomfort you can handle. However, when you do physical exertion, you actually very much understand, because it happens slowly enough, and you're the instigator, you initiate that physical stress. You place your attention on that physical stress. You very much use logic to understand what you're feeling. So even when there is psychological stress that comes with that, because that's a lot of effort, because you rationalize what's happening to you, and you gladly accept it because you know why you're doing it for. A change of scenery, making you feel empowered, wanting to gain more strength and with that more muscle mass. With that, what happens is you get to feel calmer, but also it helps you recognize different levels of stress, whether they're from an origin of psychology or physiology. Let's say when you feel quite stressed out because of a deadline that you have to meet. Quite often where I feel stressed, where I physically feel stress is in my stomach, my abs tighten up. So what I actively do is an exercise that would both tighten up my abs even more, but also an exercise that would intentionally actively stretch them out, so that I can very much stimulate that whole core section in a much greater way, so that now everything is a lot more relaxed after just a set of exercise that would target my abdominals, such as, let's say, I would hang from a bar and I would raise my legs up. This targets my legs and my abdominals. And right after that, what I would do is I would do some pull-ups in which I would intentionally extend my spine as much as possible, so that this way I can lengthen my abs.
So you're counteracting the symptoms. I'll use the word symptoms of the stress that you're having. You're counteracting that with certain exercises that are targeting those specific areas that you're feeling those symptoms in.
Yes.
Okay, and you find that this is helpful to actually alleviate those symptoms, but does it also improve your threshold for future stresses, if you see what I mean?
It does, but when it comes to me feeling stressed out and feeling physical pain, the first thing that I'm thinking about is immediate relief. Okay. I do it first and foremost for the immediate relief.
So rather than taking a painkiller or something like this, you target specifically with the strength training, exercising.
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
So one way to address it is, when it comes to dealing with stress, a very successful strategy is handling it with even more stress. Purely because you really do increase your pain tolerance threshold. Because you show yourself that there can be something that is even more difficult to manage. But what comes after such a difficult period, such as a difficult set of calisthenics? Any calisthenics exercise of your choice. Your muscles get fatigued, then you stop the exercise, you get to experience relief and relaxation.
May I talk about my experience briefly with regards to that? There was on many occasions we were doing, you were stressing me out to the point of complete total muscle fatigue, to the point where we would be doing push-ups, for example, and I could not hold myself up anymore. I would do however many reps after doing push-ups or pull-ups or whatever exercise we were doing, and it was at that point where literally the muscles had nothing left to offer, nothing left to give at all, and you'd feel like jelly, and that's probably the most stressed you can be that you can exert for yourself, at least, short on causing yourself physical pain, say with a hammer. There's not that's it was such an intense stressor, and it was almost, in a way, I was slightly fearful every time I would come to you, because I knew that at the end of the 1 hour training, I would experience this again, and it's unpleasant thinking about that you're going to exert yourself to complete and utter fatigue, and it's something that I'd never. Even when we can convince yourself that you've done that before in your life, you haven't until you've actually done it, and it's something that was a new experience for me. And like I say, I was a bit fearful for it. Once it happened, though, the next time I was slightly less fearful, kind of wanted wanted it because I judged that I had a good workout if I managed to get to that point. And what I found was I was definitely a lot calmer for the rest of the day, and the more that it happened, would be calmer for the next few days. And I'm not an angry human being naturally, but I do contain my own anger as we all do to some extent. We all have our own frustrations with everyday life. Things annoy us, and what I found was things became just that slightly less annoying. My threshold for dealing with these things became a bit higher. I was a bit more patient towards my patients, and I found myself just actually not being overwhelmed with the as much with the difficulties that I was facing in everyday life, which is one of the reasons why I was so interested in having today on the having you on the podcast today. Purely aside from, I find calisthenics actually very interesting, and the way it helps your body evolve, and the difference that I've noticed with training with yourself versus other failed sessions with be it in gyms, or be it even just watching YouTube videos online and what have you, is the way I think that we can use strength training, calisthenics, even just exercising as a means of helping to improve not only our physical well-being, our mental well-being. And I think this is something that can impact healthcare workers so much. And I think it's sort of an untapped resource within hospitals, within trusts, within governments, within our local councils. All of this, I just think we always talk about preventing something being far more cost efficient and far better than treating something. And I feel like we've kind of got, maybe not a magic bullet here, but at least we've got something in the form of you've got something that targets everyone in so many ways, and that's just simple exercises. And I appreciate everyone's very different, and there are people that the idea of exercise is just a big turn off, and that's fine. But there are also a lot of people who, when given the opportunity, would use it, and maybe able to make some slightly small changes, which I think could, in the long run, lead to less stress, less burnout, greater physical health, greater physical activity, and just have a calmer sense of mind, and just feel like they're progressing and making themselves a better person. And I just wanted to sort of troubleshoot you in that and see what your views are on this and what we can do to help.
Firstly, I would like to say that irrespective of how people feel about exercise, it's an undisputed fact that exercise is stimulating both for your body and for your mind. It's stimulating for your brain and for your central nervous system. You're only going to work towards your longevity by exercising. So it is a no-brainer that you have to perform some kind of physical activity. And the more it's related to strength, the better you're actually going to experience your older years, because strength training is the one that helps you gain more bone density and maintain and increase your muscle mass. Now, when talking about muscle mass, as you said earlier, that I pushed you the hardest possible at the end of each session for pushing that we had on your push-ups. Now, this method is useful when it comes to specifically training towards building the most amount of muscle mass for the least amount of time. But when it comes to pushing yourself until complete and utter fatigue, that has to be performed or experienced as infrequently as possible. Say, for example, once per workout for one exercise. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you will get too stressed out too soon, and this will hinder your ability to recover fast enough, adequately enough until the next session. But this training method, it's highly efficient when it comes to building muscle mass, and it's useful only for individuals that are not clinically depressed, individuals such as yourself. But for those that are clinically depressed, something that is way less stressful, by stressful I mean their perceived levels of exertion, they haven't exerted themselves to 100%. So we would like to, with clinically depressed individuals, we would like to shy away from 100% exertion, but we would like to do anything anywhere between 60 up to 85% of maximum exertion, with 60 being quite optimistic. With 60% of your maximum exertion, for sure you'll be able to do even more than 5 repetitions. But if you're someone that performs bodyweight strength training for the first time, it is expected that at first you're going to be asked to do something ever so slightly easier so that you can get to understand the movement pattern of pull-ups or push-ups, whatever the exercise of choice is. And one of the best ways to deal with improving how a depressed person feels is by taking the time to explain what they're about to experience. From then on, exposing them to a moderately physically stressful environment that they're very much in control of, monitoring how the person physically responds to that physical stress, and asking them to stop immediately once they seem moderately to highly stressed. As I said, no more than feeling that they're under tension, they're physically stressed quite a bit, but they're fully in control. What you can experience, a physical symptom would be, let's say, someone is on a pull-up bar, on parallel bars, or even as they're performing push-ups on squats, and they start to shake. So they can still fully control the movement, but if they start to shake, this is a good indicator that they're stimulated quite a bit, and it's time for them to stop the exercise. Rest for 3 to 5 minutes, or if it's already been quite a few sets, no more than 3 to 5 sets of that exercise, better stop and move on to an easier exercise.
So that's very interesting. So one of the reasons why people can feel overwhelmed and stressed, be it in the workplace or be it just in general in life, is that a lot of the stresses that placed on them, excuse me, a lot of the stresses that placed on them are stresses that are out of their control, be it from they're being implemented on that person through things that they're not choosing to do. Might be someone causing them to have a bad day or whatever it may be. But with this environment, you can literally choose. You're in control of your stress. You can stop it at any time. Technically, you can stop the exercise at any time. And are you saying, so please excuse me if I've misunderstood, but are you saying because you have that level of control within you, it allows you to push yourself that little bit further and experience stress in a way that is good for your body, but not causing you the psychological anguish that, say, other stressors would?
Yes, but the benefit of training and being in an environment that is stressful but that you have 100% control over is the fact that you now expose yourself to stress in a positive way. You get to see that even though you're exposed to stress, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. Mm-hmm. The more you expose yourself to stress in an environment that you can very much control, adapt the stress levels, and of course just completely eliminate them at any point by stopping the exercise, gives you a much better opinion of stress in general. As of course we can recognize whether stress is internal or external. When we exercise, stress is internal, but an example of external stress would be if you exercise with a personal trainer and the personal trainer guides you as to what you should do. This is internal stress coupled with external stress, or it can be entirely external stress. Someone from work or let's say at home is just causing you stress for whatever reason. You're having an argument and you have not started it. It's entirely from their side. But either way, you still feel stressed. Whether it's from an external factor, internal factor, or both together, you still end up feeling stressed. So if you get to exercise, you still train, you condition your ability to handle any form of stress. So in a way, you become way more capable and responsible of handling any kind of stress for a lot longer. As long as you keep on training, as long as you stick to the bare minimum of exercising once a week, of exercising, doing strength training. And the reason why I highly recommend bodyweight strength training is because it is widely available. You can do it almost anywhere. You can even do it at your workplace when it comes to only pushing and lower body. But all you need to find is a pull-up bar so that you can have a complete workout, doing pulling exercises, pushing exercises, and lower body exercises. And one more thing, when it comes to doing the same thing over and over again, just like I mentioned earlier, you become a ticking time bomb before you explode unless you change your environment frequently enough based on how many hours of the same activity you can handle. If you go outside, you will have a massive change of environment. From the environment in which you're either revising, or the environment in which you are working, the environment in which you live. Go outside, change your environment. On top of that, something else that is just not talked about. Let's say it's overlooked. It is your ability to focus on much more distant objects than the environment in which you currently are or you're used to being. And a good example of that is when you go outside and when you can see the sky, you can set your focal point to as far in the distance as you want. Because not frequently do we have the luxury of going somewhere in a vast open field where we can just look at right in front of us at the horizon and see far ahead. In most cases, we either see brick walls or we see fences. But when it comes to being outside, you would always have the opportunity to just look up. Even if it's cloudy, it doesn't matter. Still, those clouds are so much further away from the brick walls, from the buildings. Exactly. So change your environment. Go outside and exercise. Even if there is no pull-up bar nearby. Just simply, if you're feeling very stressed out, put yourself a hard stop. Go out from wherever you are. Go outside. Look up and look around you. Look at the most distant object that you can focus on so you can relax your eyes doing so. Focus on your breathing. Go for nasal breathing by just closing your lips. This is going to help you calm down. And from then on, pick and choose an exercise that you find challenging, but you know that you're capable of handling.
So like a push-up, for example.
A push-up would be a great example.
Okay.
If you're quite skillful, you can most definitely go for a burpee, because a burpee involves even less time for you to generate very high results. But if you're not that strong, I highly recommend something that requires a lot less explosive power and that you're a bit more confident doing. Squats, to be honest, some of the best exercises, especially if you've sat down for quite a while. And to make a squat more challenging, because 5 squats are definitely quite easy. You can always perform 5 squat jumps, in which your goal is to jump the highest that you can, the very highest, without holding back. But even if that proves challenging, another thing that you can do in order to make a squat more challenging is go down a lot slower than you would want to. This will make your muscles burn, the muscles on your thighs and the muscles of your and your glutes. So quads, glutes, even your lower back muscles, everything will burn so much because you have slowed down the pace. Hold at the bottom, again, for a lot longer than you would like to. On most occasions, once you're at the bottom of a deep squat, yes, go all the way down. Once you're at the bottom of a deep squat, if you don't find it comfortable, you would want to go up straight away. But stay with the feeling of not wanting to go up. Hold for a few seconds, then go up. As I said, do something that is challenging. Your goal is to temporarily alleviate the stress levels that you've got. You want to feel less stressed out. What is the point in feeling stressed out? Especially when the stress is because of external factors.
Yeah. Fair. And one thing I noticed was just how much even something that you wouldn't expect to condition your whole body really did. So I remember when we did our pull-ups, and my whole body ached after that, and I couldn't really understand why. It wasn't just my arms and my shoulders. It was literally my entire body was on fire the next day. My abs, my legs, everything. And it was the first time I realized how just simple calisthenic exercises actually exercise your whole body. Bit like swimming uses up all the muscles that you normally use, and it's fantastic. It's a fantastic exercise. It felt similar in that sense. You're using up all these muscles that you didn't think you'd be using, doing something that just you in your head involves just your arms, but actually involves so much more. And I remember being very humbled the first time we tried to do an exercise, because I came up with this philosophy in my head that I was a lot stronger than I was. I always thought, okay, I'm small, but I feel I'm actually quite strong. And then I realized very quickly how opposite that was, and how much of a lie that was. I'd managed to convince myself. So that's why I'm saying it on this show. Just we all have these notions that we're sometimes far more capable than we are, and I don't mean this to not have a certain sense of optimism and confidence about yourself. That's always a nice thing to have, a nice quality, but it can be very humbling sometimes when you're actually faced with reality, and the reality is actually, no, I really was not strong. My legs were not as strong as I thought. My arms were not as strong as I thought. And when you compare it to someone who is, or compare what a strong person can do, you realize very quickly you've got a very big journey to go through, and it's not something that happens overnight. But the one thing I did notice that happened very, very quickly was the sense of mental accomplishment, was the psychological benefits of all of this exercise that we were doing. Even though the progression to doing the push-ups and the pull-ups was slow, but the psychological benefits were very quick and almost, I would say, pretty instantaneous. And I think this is where I think that the medical world, and not just the medical world, but actually so many people can benefit from it. And we were talking earlier about trying to encourage hospitals and trying to encourage local areas to invest in pull-up bars, or invest in some form of calisthenics training for staff, in the same way that a lot of hospitals have yoga out after hours, or yoga during lunchtime, where staff members can go and just relax and do some exercises to help them decompress. I think there's also a scope there to have a pull-up bar in the hospital car park, for example, or somewhere like that, and I think that's something that can really be a benefit to staff. So we were talking about trying to put this idea forward to trusts and to other hospitals and around the local area and beyond, and we were looking for healthcare workers who feel that they might be able to benefit from calisthenics, and who will be willing to do a quick 1 hour training session with yourself and have a questionnaire before and after, see how they benefit from it from a psychological perspective. And if we have enough positive results from that, it gives us something that we can go talk to hospitals with, and just wondered if you would chat about this as well, your thoughts on that program.
Absolutely. So when it comes to calisthenics, bodyweight strength training, it gives you something that I like to call beneficial instant gratification. All it takes is for you to grab a pull-up bar or place your hands on the floor, feeling your weight, or being on top of parallel bars, just feeling moderately exerted, feeling the tension going through your muscles up to the point that you slightly start to shake, and then you stop the exercise. This immediately makes you feel so much better, both physically and mentally. Physically, the benefits are you have experienced stress, and all of a sudden you get to experience relaxation in a very short period of time. Now that drastically improves your mood. But psychologically, whatever was stressing you out before the exercise, it no longer is as important, because that was replaced by the physiological stressor that you just experienced and you no longer get to experience. And now your mind is focused on the relaxation. It just feels great. And this is with one quick set. You don't even need a whole hour to do that. When it comes to NHS workers, any medical workers, they would benefit highly from even no more than half an hour of strength training. Not necessarily on a daily basis, but as I said, a minimum of once weekly. Anywhere between 1 to 3 times weekly is going to be the most beneficial when it comes to exposing yourself to strength training. As for dedicated calisthenics equipment for hospitals, I'm not against such equipment being in car parks, but it's best if it's somewhere that is specifically dedicated to outdoor bodyweight strength training. Outdoors, not indoors.
Sure.
And as for individuals that are willing to partake, I'm interested in medical doctors, not nurses, because doctors hold even more responsibility, and with that, even more stress.
I will counter that just to be sure. Having worked in the NHS for many years now, 15 years, I will say we lose. So I would say it's actually the opposite. Even though doctors do have a lot, they can carry the responsibility. The stress that the nurses have in the hospital is unparalleled, and purely because there's so many different factors, and we can go into that another time. But and we know from the statistics, so we have one doctor will die by suicide every 3 weeks, whereas one nurse will die by suicide every week. So from my perspective, any healthcare worker is definitely affected by stress. So I do apologize for countering, but it's just from personal experience, and also just from the data and from what we know. I think it's a common misconception that the doctors are the most stressed in the hospital. Actually, we know that that's not the case. Doctors are extremely stressed and experience burnout, but it's not just doctors. It's the nurses who experience huge amount of stress, who are basically running the hospital half the time when we're not there. We're looking after other patients, and their burnout levels are even higher. So it's something for just to let you know.
I'm looking for up to 10 people that are clinically diagnosed with depression to come and have a PT session with me free of charge, so that we can measure their depression levels before exercise and after exercise. And the exercise will be bodyweight strength training, with half of the session mainly being about informing them what's about to happen, and the other half being about the physical activity. Just like the half an hour that I discussed earlier. Half an hour every week will be the starting point of getting the most amount of benefits from bodyweight strength training.
So how can they reach you, Viktor?
Via Instagram or via any way that they can reach out to you.
Share your handles and
most definitely. Tough Muscles. That's how you can find me.
Tough Muscles on Instagram, and you can always email the show as well. And on my Instagram, all the details are in the podcast description. And so if you do feel that you qualify, or even if it's not necessarily I would say this is not a substitute for anyone who needs to seek medical advice. So what I will say is if you're someone who feels they could benefit from this and from what Viktor said, if you want to be part of this mini trial, shall we say, just to gain an insight into how calisthenics can benefit you, please drop us a line.
Shall we sum things up? And is there anything that you would like to ask?
It's been a good journey, both this discussion, but also in general with the strength training and meeting you and seeing your perspective on things, and also seeing how it's benefited so many people and benefited me as well. And I'm glad we actually got to do this today, and I think as I said, it feels like it's something like an untapped resource that only a few select people seem to get exposed to it, be it through Instagram or people that are already involved in exercise and training. It feels like they're the people that will see these type of reels and get this exposure, whereas people who might benefit from it the most may not get the exposure and may not actually know that this is actually something that exists and actually has some benefits. So so thank you for your time and sharing some of your expertise, and I hope people come on board and give it a go.
My pleasure. So to sum things up, in a nutshell, calisthenics helps you feel so much better almost instantaneously, both during and after a single set of strength exercise, whether it's squats, whether it's push-ups, whether it's pull-ups or dips. As long as you perform a set of no more than 5 repetitions of an exercise that makes you feel moderately challenged to the point that you start to shake slightly.
Mm-hmm.
And performing no more than 5 sets of this. But as I said, 1 set is all it takes for you to drastically change the way you feel. From very stressed out and very anxious to way calmer or even completely calm. And for that reason, we are looking for up to 10 medical individuals that are clinically diagnosed with depression to come and train with me for 1 hour each, free of charge, so we can measure their depression levels before bodyweight strength training and after all the exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to form a study that we would like to present to local hospitals for the benefits of calisthenics, bodyweight strength training, in hope that hospitals would bring importance to it and start investing in calisthenics outdoor training equipment, somewhere that medical personnel can go outside of their cabinets, outside of the building, can go outside, look at the sky, just focus on their breathing in and out from the nose, and do some bodyweight strength training.
Mm-hmm. Viktor, thank you.
My pleasure.